What's up, guys? We're double dipping this week. This is our second show of the week, doing some NFL betting. Me and Chad were on yesterday, but now we have our signature pro betting expert here, John Ryan, with us. We're going to run through the entire slate today, so you guys are in for a treat. Chad, let's kick it off. All right, so before we get started, I want to introduce a new Men of Order challenge that I'm going to introduce to you guys, everybody that's viewing this at home. So this is an NFL show. Since it's strictly NFL that we're talking today, every time Chad brings up LSU, you drop down and do 10 push-ups, all right? We are the Men of Order. We want everybody to get better. So if Chad brings up LSU, you better drop right down, hit me for 10 push-ups. That's the new Men of Order challenge during this show. And that goes on forever. Obviously, if we're talking college football, then it's okay. But when we're doing the NFL shows, if that happens, drop down, do 10 push-ups. Chad's going to mention LSU at least 5 times. You're going to get 50 push-ups in like that. And
go ahead and drop down now. Go Tigers.
While you're watching this. See, there you go. There you got 10 already. All right. But hey, all right, let's get into it. So tonight's game, I'm expecting a shootout here. Chargers at Chiefs. The Chargers are coming in to Kansas City as 4.5-point dogs. The over-under is looking or you're looking at 53.5 for the over-under. I think after last Thursday night's dud, there's no way the NFL lets this game not be a shootout with these two high-powered offenses coming in. They're kicking off the whole Amazon Prime thing. They don't want it to be another dud like last week was 31-10. I think there's going to be like some, defensive pass interference in the bottom half of the 30-yard line. Get them, half the distance to the goal and whatnot. And, maybe some questionable calls in that sense where, hold on, I got half my face in here. I'm over where, they're going to try to force some points that maybe you wouldn't get in a normal game. I think this over is a lock. I'm taking the over. That's what I'm riding with on this game. That's going to be one of my official picks of this show. John, tell me why I'm correct or incorrect.
I think you're right on this one because it just shapes up to be a shootout. It really does. I mean, you can't take anything away from the Chiefs. And 5 touchdown passes by Mahomes last week. I've done some checking the database to see how he does, or any quarterback does after 5 touchdowns, and it doesn't necessarily project to a regression. So I wouldn't be surprised. He probably doesn't throw 5 touchdowns tonight, but he could throw 3, and they could also run for 2. That's the same thing. 35 points right there. The total is a little low, and I think it's because of the Chargers defense, and that's the only thing that really keeps me from being bullish on the over. As you guys know, I think the Chargers defense will end up being the number 1 defense in the AFC, but they are on the road. It's a divisional matchup, and it's the Kansas City Chiefs. So I definitely think you're right with the over.
Yeah, the Chiefs, that whole squad, Mahomes and their weapons, and we didn't even talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and like the running backs, and it's a difficult. The best defenses when that offense with Andy Reid is running like it's supposed to, the best defenses have hell trying to keep up with it. So I definitely could see that, especially like in this type of atmosphere. And it's a division game where like you got the Chargers coming off that win against Oakland and maybe kind of riding a little bit high. And I could see that too.
Well, I'm just glad that you said that you think the Chargers are going to be the best defense in the AFC this year, because that was my top fantasy pick for my defense. So I have them, but I benched them today. I'm starting the Bengals against the Cowboys instead this week because I don't want to mess with Mahomes and his offense. You know what I mean? But does Keenan Allen being out tonight have any effect on it, you think? I think the Chargers still have enough weapons to get the job done. Justin Herbert's going to be passing the ball around. I think Eckler will probably get some more touches than last week. I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference, but I was watching a couple shows and a couple people were saying, oh, I don't know, that over is tricky. That might be why it's so low, just because the Chargers are without that firepower. But I think this smashes the over, especially for the first prime game of Thursday night for the NFL. They want it to be a high-scoring shootout. I mean, there's still a lot of fans those fans still exist that like the defensive games, but there's so many more in my generation that are going to be streaming this game that love high scoring offense, high scoring games. So I think the over hits. I don't think the NFL lets that go under in this case, especially after last week's dud. Let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts.
On your point about like the fans now versus the fans who like good defensive games. I think in fantasy baseball you can maybe get away with the defensive with a pitcher's duel because people want they've got Clayton Kershaw on their fantasy roster or Jacob deGrom or Max Scherzer or whoever. But in the NFL, like defense in fantasy is like it's always your last pick. It's like defense and kicker. That's your last 2 picks in your fantasy draft. Nobody in any game, unless it's their opponent that has offensive players going in a game, no one is rooting for the game to be a low-scoring defensive shootout or defensive slugfest. They want to see fireworks. They want to see points. And so, yeah, I mean, sometimes we don't get what we want. But most of the time, as you have seen with some of the rule changes that the NFL has made, some of the ways that they call different penalties and things like that, you have seen the NFL cater to the same way that baseball did back in the 80s and then in the early 2000s with steroids and kind of looking the other way. You see the home runs start jumping out of the park when they think maybe the fans are souring on it. So they know how to butter the bread, and you butter the bread with offense. So.
Yep. No, exactly. Yep. 100%. So we got the Indianapolis Colts coming into Jacksonville as 3.5-point favorites with the over-under set at 44.5. The Colts looked bad last week. Was that against the Texans at that? Was that just a week 1 fluke type of thing, do you think, John? Or do you think that the Colts might be in trouble? Do you think the Jags have a chance to cover here? I'm not going to play this game because I'm kind of iffy on all of that, but I was definitely curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think the Colts are in trouble. Houston clearly outplayed them. And, Houston is one of those teams that has been bad for many seasons now, and that bias is still in the marketplace. So I think for at least the next several weeks, you're going to get the better value with whoever Houston is playing for that simple reason. And even Manny in the background likes the underdog Texans too, as you could hear.
Thanks.
Yeah, you got anything on this, Chad?
I kind of feel the same way that you do. Like, while at the same time, I look at what happened last week, and I kind of tend to. We talked about this last night when I was on with Tyler and Connor on picking winners. This week screams to me to fade whatever you think you learned from last week, because there's so many things that went in the face of what everyone was expecting coming into week 1. And so unless you completely throw out all of your preseason expectations because of 1 week, you should still look at what your preseason expectations were. So like that would logically tell you, take the Colts here. Don't like the Why would you like the Jaguars after? I mean, okay, they looked okay last week, but this is not a juggernaut, and the Colts are a team that was favored to win that division and unseat the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South. But I like your perspective on just kind of avoiding this one, because I think there's still enough unknown about both of these teams that I'm just you can't lose money you don't put in the pot. So when you feel really good about something, that's when you can. And I really appreciate John's approach. Be judicious. There's never a game that you can feel so confident about that you put your whole stack in on that game. You've got to nibble and you've got to grind, and honestly, it makes it more fun to me to go 6-3 in a week than to try to put all my money on one game, and then if it doesn't go my way, it's a really, really bad weekend. So yeah. Sometimes the better part of valor is discretion, and discretion in this case tells me avoid this game because I don't think we know enough about either of these teams yet. That Jaguars team could actually surprise some people if some of those younger players, especially Trevor Lawrence, develop and start to show some ability to make plays late in games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that, especially how bad the Colts looked last week. against the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's value coming in on the Jags here. Even if you just want to throw money line out, like you're getting plus 170 as probably your best odds on Caesars right now, according to Action Network. And if you just want to throw a little pizza money out, as John would say, I think the Jaguars are not a bad play as an underdog play there. They're probably not the best dog on the board, but the way the Colts look, but you gotta remember the Colts have a superstar running back. They can control the game if they really game plan the right way. They got Michael Pittman out there. Matt Ryan's good enough to beat the Jaguars, so it's not like a safe play. But if you want to take a little risk with a little bit of pocket change, Jaguars aren't a bad look there.
No, for real.
And then we got the Dolphins plus 3.5 traveling to Baltimore to play my Ravens with the over under set at 44.5. I am perplexed on this one. Obviously, as a Ravens fan, I want to say that we'll get the win. Do we cover though? I don't know. I did not like how we looked against the Jets. They pulled away at the end there, obviously, but that first half, the Jets were locking them up. And the Dolphins looked pretty good against the Patriots, but I think that's more so the Patriots being really bad at the moment. So I'm not sure how to call this one either. I think the over will probably hit in this one, though, the over 44.5. What you got, Chad?
Oh, me. All right. Well, I mean, I kind of
up on you. My bad.
Yeah. No. It's all good. So I have this theme that I've kind of followed for years now. So just keep in mind, I don't have nearly the robust analytical data that John has at his fingertips. I just have like some of my gut feelings and my what I kind of surmise over that experience. And it seems as though what happens in the NFL is we go into the season and there's this certain level of expectation. And invariably, every year in the first 4 weeks, we find out that there are like 3 or 4 teams who are complete frauds based on what we thought they were going to be going into the season. And there are 3 or 4 teams who completely surprise us. And they actually end up making the playoffs when nobody thought they had any business making the playoffs, maybe even winning their division. We've seen it a lot in the NFC South. As a Saints fan, I've seen it so many times where the team goes from last to first in that division and vice versa. So there's that element of things. But then what also happens is you have those 3 or 4 teams that flip the script on everyone. But then there are also these other 3 or 4 or maybe a few more teams who look like that's what they're doing. And then they go right back to exactly what we expected them to be by week 5, week 6. So you have to look at this with a very discerning eye early on and start to try to really understand, what am I seeing that may be a mirage because it's just, somebody, it was a tough matchup or they had a couple of bad breaks go their way. We were talking about this last night. That Seahawks Denver game, as much as I love that it went according to the script that I had laid out in my episode last Friday, I also look at that and I say, okay, that tells me that the Seahawks are going to be way overvalued going into this week, and the Broncos are going to be way undervalued going into this week because everybody's going to pretend like they forgot what their expectations were going into Monday night. So I look at the Dolphins and the Ravens in a very similar way. I kind of expected the Ravens to possibly even lose to the Jets. That was one of those deep, heavy money line upsets that I picked last week. It didn't end up working out that way, but there was a little bit of confirmation to my theory as that game started off. And with the Dolphins and the Patriots, I'm with you. Like, I think what we saw there was more of the Patriots not performing versus the Dolphins really proving that they were that good. So I still kind of look at both of these teams like, I don't know that we know enough yet about them, but if I'm going any direction on this, I'm probably taking the Ravens at home, even though it's minus the 3.5. Your money line's probably not that bad for that bet. But you might even want to give up the 3.5. But I think this also falls into that category of, you don't have to bet this game.
Yeah,
you can back
100%.
off. There's some other games that look a lot better as low hanging fruit to me than this one, and I like to go for low hanging fruit.
Yep. You got anything for this game, John?
I have to agree. I'm not sold on Miami at all. The Patriots have not looked good in the preseason. They obviously didn't look good last week. So I don't know what kind of takeaways you can really get your hands around with the Dolphins. But the Ravens, they're not a sleeper really, but they are kind of a long shot to win that division. Knowing that the Bengals are in there, and I think the Browns could get better because they have athletes on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to be bad because Baker Mayfield's not there anymore. They have some studs on both sides of the ball. The offensive line for Cleveland is one of the best in all of football. Their defensive line is also pretty darn good, certainly above average. So that whole division is really cloudy right now, the way I see it. And I too would lay off this game. I think in-game idea would be to kind of lean towards the over, but don't bet it pre-flop at all. And then see if you get a scoreless first quarter, and then that'll get that total down to about 34.5, and then play the over.
Yeah.
So that's just food for thought.
You know what? I'm gonna use that. I'm not gonna play that because I mean I was thinking of the over not as like one of my top picks or anything, but I was definitely gonna think about sprinkling some money on that. But I'm gonna use that advice and I'm gonna wait and see what happens after the game starts. That's a good call. Appreciate you on that. Speaking of the Browns, and we were just talking about the Jets as well. We got another a dud matchup here, in my opinion. Jets plus 6.5 traveling to Cleveland. Over under set at 39.5. My one insight on this is the Ravens, a run heavy team. Their running game got completely shut down by the Jets. The Browns are also a run heavy team with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They like to give them a lot of touches. They like to just power and bully you right up front. Like John just said, one of the best offensive lines in football. You think the Jets might hang around and stop that run game like they did for the Ravens? Because the only reason the Ravens even opened the game up is because Lamar went downfield and those receivers were making some big catches. But they were getting shut down in the run game in the trenches. And I think the Browns will overcome that. I think the Browns will get their normal running game done. But what do you guys think?
I kind of agree with you. This is another one that I'm not, we have our picks that I went through the whole slate this week, and I had 4 games that I actually looked at where I was like, okay, these are the games I would actually be willing to throw a little money at. This is not one of them. So
no, not at all.
I would take the Browns, but 6.5 is a lot. I think they could still handle this game and then have the Jets backdoor cover like they almost, tried to let happen last week. So I would be a little hands off here as well. So I hate to be doing that with all these, but I think sometimes the best advice you can give yourself is to not feel like you have to take every bet. So
yeah, 100%. Hey, if you take every bet, there's no way you end up with the winning record at the end of the year, at the end of the week, at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You got to take the high value plays.
That's right.
You got anything to add on that, John, or you want to just move on to the next one?
Well, I think the Jets would be the lean for me. They're not, at least right now, they're not the Jets that were the Jets of previous seasons. Yeah, they didn't do so well in week 1. I had them as a premium bet that didn't come through, but it was the only one, thank goodness. But I think one of the things, some of these trends that are going against the Jets, and I talk about that P value or the JR value, as some of my buddies suggest I call it, because the P value doesn't sound quite right. It sounds a little foul, actually. But the Jets are 0-7 September games, last 3 seasons. That has a very poor P value to begin with, but when you see them 0-7, there's another one here. 3-13 are the Jets against the number in the first half of the season over the last 3 seasons. The market has already more than priced in a horribly bad Jets team. So again, like when I see the Jets lined for the next, this week, even the next 3 weeks after this, the lean will be to see if the Jets are in a situation that is positive and they can possibly win the game. So although I said what I said about Cleveland in the last game, with the studs they have on both sides of the ball, we're talking the NFL, and we know how double-digit underdogs do in the NFL, and we know the upsets that occur in the NFL are every single week.
Yep.
So I'd rather lose money on the Jets in this matchup for a sprinkle than I would trying to get the Browns here and think that they're going to win by double digits.
Yeah, I agree with that. I look at this game where I'm like, I'm going to stay away because I don't trust either team to win this game, and I don't trust either team to not lose this game. You know what I mean? Like the Browns could be winning up until the fourth quarter and just throw it away, and same with the Jets. So I'm going to stay away because there's way too much that I can't predict on that. You know what I mean? But while we're on the Jets, before we move on, I got to say Sauce Gardner looks legit. He was shutting Mark Andrews down for a good portion of that game. Great coverage. So I'm excited to see him going throughout the season. That's one bright spot that I like about the Jets right now. Let's move on. So we got Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Bucs traveling to New Orleans, where he doesn't ever fare too well. And they are coming in as 3-point favorites with the over-under set at 44.5. We saw the Bucs not be able to really get into the end zone against the Cowboys defense last week, even though they won easily. And the Saints, they showed a lot of fight and grit, coming back and being able to win that game.
Could have lost that game.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's the Falcons. The Falcons are going to do what the Falcons are going to do. I was at work at the bar talking to all the regulars, and they were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I don't know how that team, the Falcons organization from the past 7 years, should, if you were a part of the team in the last 7 years, you should be indicted on a RICO or something for point shooting.
I'm waiting for one of those samurai where they all fall on their own swords. Look, man, y'all just take one for the team.
Yeah, but anyway, so I mean, the Bucs don't usually fare well, or Brady doesn't usually fare well in New Orleans. So what are you guys thinking here? There's a
lot of Drew Brees baked into that, though, right?
Exactly.
We got one game in New Orleans last year with Drew Brees not at the helm. So I don't know. We'll see, but I do kind of like, so you had the Cowboys game go the way that it went last week, and I think Dak getting hurt and some of the other different, bounces going certain ways helped out with it. Dallas also seems to be super Jekyll and Hyde at home. They either play dog crap or they play really, really well. It's so weird. You have no idea what to expect out of that franchise in their own stadium. It's weird. New Orleans, after going on the road, I picked them to lose that game against Atlanta. I definitely picked Atlanta to beat that 5.5 point spread because I just saw the game setting up the way that it ended up playing out. And if I look at that and I say okay, well, what would I, forgetting all that, what would I have projected for this game if this was week one? And, or even if, after the things that they learned from the mistakes they made last week, I actually kind of like the Saints here, plus 2.5 at home in the Superdome. I'm not sure why the number is where it is, given all the history that we know about Brady and playing there and everything. Yes, it's Jameis Winston. It's not Drew Brees, but it's still, there's a lot of talent on that roster. And so if I like anybody, I like the Saints here. And that's not me being a homer because I don't really, ever since fantasy football, I literally I've rooted against the Saints so many times so that my fantasy team can do well that I don't even care anymore. So it's not that, I promise. But look, Michael Thomas really showed out. I was concerned about how dialed in or checked out he was going to be this year, because after he took basically 2 years off, there was no guarantee that you were actually going to see legitimate, fight and performance from him. And he came to play last week. It took a little while to get going, but once he got going, that's how they came back. So I think this shapes up to, I kind of I want to hear your thoughts, John, but I kind of like the over in that game too.
Yeah, I think the over is my lean. I will say this for Tampa Bay, though, that I think that defense is real. Dallas looked awfully bad, and now they don't have Prescott for the foreseeable future. Their season is in trouble. I mean, there's no other way to look at it because they don't have a really solid backup there to run the show. But my models say that the Saints won't gain more than 4.5 rushing yards per attempt. When Tampa defense has held an opponent to 4.5 or fewer rushing yards per attempt in games played over the last 3 seasons, they're 9-1 against the spread. I think there's a high probability that the Bucs defense, maybe they do play Well, they obviously play 4 down linemen and then add a 5th. But then the mystery and the tough read for Winston will be which 5 are staying in, which 5 are going to go into coverage. And that's where I think the Bucs are really good defensively to add confusion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing I think you look at in the game when it starts out. And a lot of times I just watch the trenches. I don't even watch where the ball goes because that can tell you a lot what's going to go on and more importantly, what's going to go on later in the game.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And we were talking about that on Monday night. We were watching because we were all kind of bought in on the Seahawks and the under for that Monday night game. And I think you had to check out of our little group chat by halftime. But before you did, you said, "No, guys, I like what I see in the trenches. I'm just watching this, and Seattle's doing enough. They're winning enough in the middle that and where it counts that they're going to be okay." And it ended up working out that way. Granted, they had to get some help with some goal line fumbles and whatnot, but there's a reason why those things happen. In both of those cases, one case, Melvin Gordon gets stuffed at the goal line because of interior penetration. And that's how he fumbled. He fumbled trying to stretch the ball and reach it out as he was going down. The second one, they blew that play up. And the guy fumbled because I don't remember who it was, if it was Gordon again or if it was, I think it was another running back.
I think it was Williams. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So an offensive lineman
the next
ran into him. Yeah. An offensive lineman ran into it. Like he got blown up and knocked back into the ball carrier and, his ass basically forced the fumble.
Butt fumble.
So yeah, that's right. He butt fumbled it. Yeah. So I'm with you there.
Shout out to Capo Beats. He said TB12, 4 touchdowns. Jameis, 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I don't hate that. That makes sense. You know what I mean? If you look at the history of Jameis and everything.
Yeah.
But Capo is a Patriots fan, so he's been a big Tom Brady guy his whole life. That's one of my buddies from home. If you like good music, if you know any artists that need some beats, go over to Capo Beats on YouTube. He's a producer, so he'll take care of you. And shout out to Jabari in the chat. Shout out to Pickin' T-Ho, Tyler from pickinwinners.org, and go subscribe to them as well. And also shout out to Faith Thomas as well in the chat.
We're going to get into that San Francisco game here in just a minute.
Yep, 100%. But the next game on the slate, we have the Patriots coming into Pittsburgh as 2-point favorites after a very underwhelming game against the Dolphins, in which I had them as a upset, but that didn't pan out. But I did also have the Steelers as an upset on the Bengals, and that one panned out. I'm going to ride with the Steelers again. This is another one of my official picks of the week for this show. I'm going to do I'm taking Steelers money line, not even to cover, but the money line. I don't see why they're the underdog here. Granted, their offense didn't look great either. They needed a lot of Joe Burrow mistakes and turnovers in order to even put the points on the board, and they should have still lost. All it took was an extra point.
Minkah Fitzpatrick was the MVP of that game.
Oh, he single-handedly won in that game. But speaking of him, Jersey, hey, you brought it up. You brought it up, Chad.
Oh,
you did that one to yourself, brother.
I'm just surprised you didn't make anybody do 10 push-ups when I said Clyde Edwards-Hilaire's name earlier.
Oh, I missed it. Damn, I missed that one. You guys owe me 10. When you got to the Homer Saints talk, and
because he went to my high school.
I thought it was coming. I thought it was coming when you started talking about the Saints.
Edwards-Hilaire went to my high school, Catholic High, Baton Rouge. That's right, baby.
Yeah, but I got the Steelers winning again. I got the Steelers starting the season 2-0, Patriots 0-2. I mean, Mac Jones, I think they're saying he's going to play, but I don't know how healthy he is. He didn't look great anyway. I just gave a shout out to Capo, the Patriots fan, and now I'm fading him. But so sorry about that, buddy. But I'm going to Steelers. What you got, John?
Well, I'll tell you, I can't say enough about Tomlin as a head coach, and that Steelers franchise has had 3 head coaches in like the last millennium.
Yeah,
it's truly amazing. And they are a franchise that will give a coach time to build a culture, and obviously Tomlin has built quite the culture under his watch, and his defense did not do so well last week, and it's a topic that I've talked about with Notre Dame in college football. There's even I forget what the name of that team is in New Orleans, Chad. It's in the SEC.
In New Orleans, or
Yeah, they're in the SEC. The mascot is a tiger, I think.
Baton Rouge.
We're not in New Orleans. We're in Baton Rouge. All right.
Oh, Baton Rouge. Yeah. So
what's the team? What's the team called?
I'm not trying to give anybody any extra push-ups. So that's a good try, though. That's a good try. You're slick.
I thought that was a pretty good try. I think it's a great show when we can actually have people doing cardio and getting analytics at the same time. I mean, what could be better?
It's perfect. It's perfect for the Men of Order brand. You know.
Fine, go Tigers. It's LSU. All right.
There you go.
Another 10
right now. Get your fitness in. Get your picks for the week. Make some money. You can't beat it here at Men of Order.
That's right. Oh shit.
So anyway, Tomlin
is have to goad me into it though.
He's coming off a game where his defense allowed 400 plus yards in total offense. And just know that he's 23-10 in his coaching career to the under following a game in which he's allowed 400 or more total yards. I think that is really good. He's also 24-10 to the under facing the AFC East division as the coach of the Steelers. What else can I tell you here? He's 45-30 to the under when installed as an underdog. And what does that tell you? When he's an underdog, the game plan is defense and then more defense to stay in the game. They're not much of a dog here. The only part I don't like about the side guys is that the Patriots are favored on the road after what we saw. And, when it doesn't look right, that immediately makes me start thinking that the Patriots side might be the pick. So again, with, if you like the Patriots and you're listening to this show, maybe you don't bet it pre-flop and you just sit there and wait for Pittsburgh to score first. And if they do score a touchdown, you're going to get the Patriots as a 3-point dog.
Premium.
Maybe 3.5.
Yeah.
So I love those strategies, not to force the bet if you're not 100% sure of what you're doing. And then use the volatility of the game to your advantage. It's pretty good stuff, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Me out of my pick here.
I agree, and I actually felt the same way about this. So back to this and what Tyler was saying about it's fade the public week. I think some of what you see there with that number is that's bringing in more of those more of that Steeler line. They kept having to move it because people were betting the Patriots, and I think you got a strong Patriots nation. But the Steeler Nation is not any weaker in terms of their pull on he's saying 24-10 Pats. What I'm thinking when I say fade the public, I'm also thinking fade the trend that you saw from last week that says, oh, wow, the Steelers went into Cincinnati and beat the Bengals. The Patriots did not look good. So therefore, by the, I don't know which mathematical property you would want to use. It's not the transitive property, but the commutative property or whatever of NFL football. Oh, well, then logically, the Steelers should beat the Patriots, right? Because they looked good. The Patriots didn't. The Steelers are surprising. The Patriots are surprisingly bad. And you go grab the Steelers and look at that. You get +2. And if you want to go money line, you can actually make a little bit more money. I think we're seeing this week a lot of traps being set.
Yeah,
I wouldn't traps being set.
I wouldn't even say the Steelers would. The Steelers looked good, though. You know what I mean? I wouldn't say that.
I'm saying it
great.
Yeah, I'm saying that from the perspective of you've got the defending AFC champion playing at home,
and you win,
and you win, and really like. You were in control of that game, and they had to like scratch and claw to come back and give themselves an opportunity to tie it at the end. And they could have won if they just, man. I was telling my son today. I was like, man, you could not just Minkah Fitzpatrick, but like long snapper, man. Like people train your kids to be kickers and long snappers. They can't do anything to you. There's all kind of penalties against them touching you. And you can still make bank doing this stuff. So like you don't get hurt, and unless you're Martin Gramatica and you're celebrating and you tear your ACL, or maybe it was his brother. I can't remember which Gramatica it was.
And there's demand for the positions at the moment.
That's what I told him. I said the demand is higher than the supply.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about getting beat up. That's a good take, man. That's a good take, Chad. Definitely. All right, so let's move on. We got
that
the
snap. The holder had to go up here and get it and try to put it down. Laces
Yeah.
facing the wrong way and everything. Like it's bad.
Yep. All right, we got the Panthers +2 going into MetLife at the Giants over under 43.5. I'm not sure about this one. I don't trust the Giants to start 2-0. And in order to fade the Giants, I would have to trust Baker Mayfield. And I don't trust Baker Mayfield either. I've never really been on him in the NFL. When he was in college, great quarterback, but I said from day one he wasn't going to be that good in the NFL. He'll be a starter, but he's not going to win you games. And I don't think the Panthers have enough around him to go far without him winning some games. And the Giants, they looked good. I love the attitude of that coach. They're going to come in firing. They're going to come in hot. They're definitely still excited. A little bit of a winning hangover from that game last week, I would assume, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. I think they might come out and win because of that. But I'm not going to pick a side here. What do you guys think?
John, I was
on the Giants last. Go ahead, Chad. I'll let you go.
No, I said I was going to let you go. That's
okay.
Sorry.
I was on the Giants. That was one of my betting videos that I produced that you guys seemed to enjoy, and had to do with new head coaches. And the new head coaches did pretty well in week one. They really do well because they want to change that toxicity from the coaching regime that was fired. And no better way than to win a few games in the preseason, even though they're meaningless. It's still a positive thing. And then the fact that the Giants came back, they were down 13-0, and they didn't look anywhere good enough for me to proclaim that I was going to sprinkle an in-game bet on the Giants. I did not see the comeback coming at all. In fact, I thought they were trying to imitate the Jets, and they were doing a pretty good job there for a while. But, Saquon, and I realize we're singing to the choir here with Adam because of Penn State, but he looked like the guy from Penn State when, he would break off those huge runs and just destroy people. I mean, he was blowing up a lot of those Tennessee defenders in the second half. And going for 2 to win it, what can you say about that? I mean, that takes guts. And what does that do in the locker room? It's huge. Yep. Yeah, it's big time coming from the coach, especially all the years that they have underperformed. So I still don't know if I like Carolina at all. They got extraordinarily lucky last week with that 58-yarder to win the game.
Exactly.
Cleveland, I thought, outplayed them, but the way the Giants came back and showing what I call moxie, that was pretty impressive. So I would definitely lean initially here in the Giants, and then I'll finish the research off by Sunday, and maybe we'll have another bet on them.
Sounds good. We'll be looking forward to that.
I'm a little scared because anytime everybody's thinking the same way, it's like, what are we missing here? But like I wonder, like, though, because we tend to be kind of against the overall trend anyway, and not get suckered into too much stuff. So I don't hate it, but I looked at this game. This is one of my games that I picked, and I like the Giants. I like the Giants -2 at home against Carolina. I think this sets up to be because I feel the same way that you did. Like that, and this is what I told Tyler and Connor last night. Going for 2 in that situation was less about that play and winning that game, and it was more about the trajectory of the future of the franchise with this new mentality. It was the kind of thing that when you do it, win or lose, you can go into that locker room and you can look Saquon Barkley and that entire offensive line dead in the eye and say, I would do it again 100 times because that's what I believe about you guys. And yep. when you infuse that into a locker room, people will go through a wall and die for you. And I loved that choice. Like just as like what the zeitgeist of Giant Nation has to be now versus what it was before. They went through a really rough stretch.
That stadium is going to be crazy on Sunday.
Yeah.
Coming off that win, you can't say enough about it. It's
mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this too. the players know that Dallas is in serious trouble.
Yes.
It makes it basically a two-team race for the division title.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If Dallas is really
the Eagles. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what I was actually.
I'm gonna put them in that group. But
that's
that
what I
has
was.
to be big time positive.
I was saying the same thing on our show yesterday that me and Chad did. The same exact thing. I was saying they see that the Cowboys are dead in the dirt, probably going to start 0-2 with the Bengals, and probably going to end up. I mean, until Dak's back, what are we going to say? Maybe 2-4 or something like that. I don't know how long he's out for, but they're seeing that they have a chance right here because this is the only division in the NFL where you can make the playoffs as a sub 500 team as long as you win your division. So. They're like, oh, we got to win these games against the Panthers. We have to win that game. The Commanders, we're talking about them next. They played the Lions. They got to win that game against the Lions. The Eagles have a matchup with the Vikings that they have a chance to win. I think all three of those teams are going to come out firing because they know that they have a chance to take a little lead on the Cowboys, who coming into the season, everybody probably would have said were the favorites to win that division and make the playoffs out of it. Kappa brings up a good point, too. The Giants defense folded on that last drive. They just missed the field goal. I agree. They definitely weren't supposed to win. That field goal probably should have went in. They messed up on that, but they still would have covered in that case. And that's what John had, I think. So
yeah, that's what made me so happy they were going for 2, to be honest. Because think about it,
can't lose
5.5. I can't lose, right?
Yep.
There's no more tie in overtime.
Yep.
That made me happy.
That's how we felt on Monday night too with that Denver-Seattle game. Once
there
was 30 seconds left, I was like, I don't care because they can't tie and go to overtime, and I don't care who wins at this point because I had money on the spread and on the money line. Obviously, it was better that the Seahawks won it outright, because I had money on that one. But the big money I had was on the spread, so I did. I followed John's advice. I just sprinkled a little bit of pizza money on the money line.
The only other thing I want to add too about the Giants and the coach Daboll, and I think what he did last week is going to make a big difference for Daniel Jones going forward, which will make a big difference for the Giants. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but when he threw that red zone interception, that terrible interception on the Saquon wheel route, just horrible read, horrible throw. If you're going to make that read and actually throw that one, you got to put it outside where only either Saquon gets it or it lands 7 yards out of bounds. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't throw an interception in that case. But the cameras showed us on TV, Daboll going up and getting on him about that. And I imagine he said something like, that was stupid. Why are you throwing it? Obviously with choice words. Right. But I think he ended that by saying, don't worry, though. We're going to get you the ball back. And it's your job to go win this game. Because if you notice, every key situation after that, he put the ball in Daniel Jones' hands. Saquon was running all over him. And while Saquon was getting the ball, the key situations, he let Daniel Jones do it. So 4th and 1, they ran a bootleg for Daniel Jones to run and go get the 4th down. On the goal line, the touchdown they scored, it was play action, and he had to pass it. He had to make the throw. Wide open, but he had to make the throw. He put his trust in the quarterback. Even on the 2-point conversion, instead of running a normal run play, they ran the pass action pitch. He trusted Daniel Jones to do all of that and actually go get that win. And I think that'll build on his confidence because, obviously the Giants fans are pretty ruthless. So he hasn't had an opportunity to get a lot of confidence when he hasn't been playing well. So them actually pulled off that win and it being in Daniel Jones' hands for a lot of key situations, I think will help them going forward for sure.
Yeah, and if Daboll is anything like me, what he probably told Daniel Jones was something along the lines of, there were some choice words in there, and there was some like, don't do that, dumbass, kind of stuff. But it's also coming from this spirit of you're smarter than that, you're better than that.
Right.
I expect more from you. Not this, you're hopeless and you suck, like I can't, I'll never be able to win with you kind of stuff. But instead, more like, listen, you're better than that, and we can't win. We can't go where we're trying to go if you make plays like that. You got to do better. That sort of thing. That's where a good coach is really like extracting the most out of players versus, turning them into guys that look over their shoulder and they're never the same again.
Yeah, and I mean, just putting the ball in his hands after that. That's the most important part.
Right.
Every coach will go talk to you, but he didn't shy away from him after that. He said, I'm going to give you the chance to win this game. It's up to you. And I imagine there was some, listen, I coached Tyrod Taylor before. I know what he's capable of. So you better go win this game when we get you the ball back.
Man, that's dirty. All right, what we got next?
It might have been.
The commies and the Lions. All right.
Now we got the commies from Washington coming in.
I'm avoiding this game like the plague. I have no interest in watching this game or like I don't. Yeah, go ahead. Do your intro to it, but don't even bother asking me because I have nothing to say about this game.
Well, I got as I talked about yesterday on the show, I'm taking them, the Commanders. I think they should be the favorites here. I like their matchups against. I liked how they played, and I like this matchup against the Lions. If Carson Wentz didn't throw a couple of stupid interceptions, the game wouldn't have even been that close against the Jaguars. But John, I know I was watching your show earlier, and your one guy had a solid angle on the over. Is that what you're feeling in this game also?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought him up. He, I hope the betting gods don't hear it because I don't want to jinx him, but he went 5-0 in the Circa contest and 13-0 college and NFL. And, he's a longtime buddy, and those are numbers that I just like, wow, like 13.
Yeah.
It's insane. So he's seeing the card really, really well, and that's the point of mentioning it. Don Buster's his name. And, and Rocky Atkinson in his own right went 2-0 in the NFL, and he only hit 70% for the whole season last year. So,
that's it. What are you guys doing
really
over there
right now?
70%. Come on, man. I expect better.
He did. I was second. I was chasing him. And what was really funny last year is that he couldn't lose basically with the premium picks. But on the show, his free pick for the show was like on a 1-in-10 run. Oh, wow. And we finally got to the point where I would make fun of, it was like kind of like Buster's in my show. And then if you guys want to play the free pick with Rocky, I mean, you do it at your own peril.
But you're better off paying him for his premium picks.
Exactly.
That's funny.
But, it ebbs and flows. I mean, Bus will be the first guy to tell you that, when you have a hot short-term burst like that, the fear is that you're going to regress the following week. And in the Circa, you really can't do that. You got to go at least 16-4, if not 17-3 during the first quarter to start smelling the money. So you just can't afford any hiccups during those, those quarterlies, those 4-week periods. They award money to I think the top 3. Okay. But there's over 5,000 entries. Oh,
wow. Yeah.
Some last year there was a guy who went 19-1 in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
That's against the number.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so difficult.
Pretty nuts. But anyway, I think the over here, I agree with what he said, and it makes total sense to me. Detroit, like the Giants, came back on the Eagles. The Eagles were the number 1 pick at the Circa contest, the Circa Millions. And that's something that going forward, you really want to pay attention to. And on the Saturday show that we're going to do at 8 a.m., maybe I'll bring that up. I should have all the data in place. I download every single pick. So, it's well over 25,000 picks each week in this contest. And you kind of want to make sure that your picks, if they are part of the top 5 in the Circa, you want to make sure that there's good reasons why you're on it. They don't lose every single one either, but that contrarian feel for going against what a public contest like that is that big has a lot of meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so separate yourself a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, I took the Commanders at plus 110 on the money line 2 days ago, and it is at plus 08 best odds you can get right now on FanDuel. So I took it early because I figured it would start trekking downwards as we go. I'm in on them as a money line win. I like their matchup against the Lions. That's really what it comes down to. I don't necessarily trust them to be like a fantastic football team or anything, no pun intended. But I think the Commanders can definitely get this win here this week. Mm-hmm. So now we got
do you like betting a mascot that's called the Commander?
Well, that's why AG calls them the commies now.
I call them the commies, yeah.
Like
Washington
Commandos would have been better.
Right.
And I actually suggested on the Manny's Pub Show a lot last year that they should go with the Iron Condors because that sounds fearful. It's actually an option strategy, for financial trading and stuff. But it is called the Iron Condor. That sounds pretty ferocious to me. I mean, what the heck is a mascot called the football team?
Right.
All right, so we got
no mascot whatsoever. That's what it is.
Yeah. Seahawks plus 9.5 going into San Francisco. Over under set at 41.5. If you guys want to know how me and Chad really feel about this game, we did an episode yesterday about it, and we think there's a lot of overhype coming in on the Seahawks because of their win on Monday night, and a lot of undervalue coming in on the Niners because of their loss in the swamp game to the Bears. But we were talking about it yesterday. Me and Chad were talking about yesterday how we want to hear what you think about this. We think the Niners are going to cover pretty easily here. We think all the hype's coming in on the wrong sides there. What do you think, John?
I would agree with it. It's a shame that Eric Mitchell is, injured. Huge blow. But I can tell you this, regardless of injuries over the years, and this is going back 30 seasons, San Fran's 23-6-1 against the number, coming off an upset loss, installed as a road favorite. I don't need to dig any more. That sums it up.
Yeah, I'll take that to the window any day. And we were already feeling it. So that was one of the things I was like, yeah, we'll do a couple of these low-key games, and then we'll talk about, the whole slate when we have John tomorrow, and he can give us some of his analytics and everything. And Chad's like, well, we got to see if his analytics are backing up what we're saying here before we go out and put our money down. But that backs it up right there, easy enough. And then
it was the fact that the 49ers looked like dog against the Bears, and the fact that the Seahawks did exactly what I expected them to do based on the show I did last Friday. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, I expected some weird stuff to happen, but I definitely do not think the Seahawks are better than the Broncos. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I'm sure Raider Nation is happy that the Broncos lost that game. And it's 100%. Kind of bittersweet because I don't think they like Russell Wilson or the Seahawks, but I don't think they like the 49ers either. There's a rivalry there between, in that Bay Area. But I think this one just, to me, it screams, as crazy as it may sound, like there's a bunch of these trap games that I think they're doing everything they can to entice you to take the dog because it's 9, 10 and a half points on some of these games. And I think the play is actually the opposite. I think the play is to play the favorite minus the 9.5 or 10 or 10.5 in a couple of these games. And this is one of them. The other one is one of those other teams I was just talking about, but we'll move on and we'll get to that. Cause I think
in 2 seconds.
I think AG's got it queued up.
Yep. 100%. But for now we got the Falcons plus 10.5 at the Rams over under 45.5. While we're at it, Chad, is this one of those games also?
Yes, this is another one of those games. I like the Rams minus the 10.5 here. I don't believe in the Falcons. I thought and I think if you remember, this is again going back to remember what your preseason understanding of who these teams were coming into this season. Forget about what happened last week, because what happened last week was you saw Atlanta at home, a division rival, a game that I expected it to go exactly the way that it went down. And I don't think that means that the Falcons are as good as they looked on Sunday. And I definitely don't think the Rams are as bad as they looked at home against Buffalo on Thursday. And they had a week and a half to get ready for this game. So now they come into Sunday with a little bit more time to prepare and rest and get some guys ready. And if you think they're going to stay laying down on that mat after they just won the Super Bowl, I don't know what to tell you, but I expect them to get healthy and take all of their frustration out on a hapless Falcons team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think you called it perfectly. You called a lot of those games where that kind of situation was happening for week one right on the money. It happened exactly how you thought it would. But that wasn't, like you said about the Seahawks, that's not necessarily you buying in on that team. It was situational awareness and, really assessing what's going on with the lines and with the situation of the game to start the week or start the season. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the Rams come into this game upset and pissed off about that game, and that was a home game too to start the season, a home opener. Yep. You just got your rings and everything,
putting their banners up and everything.
Yeah, and you get. It wasn't even close. You know what I mean? They didn't even really have a chance. They couldn't do anything on offense. I'm hoping Matt Stafford comes back and plays well because he's my quarterback on fantasy. So I got some bias there. I'm definitely rooting for him. What you got, John? You got anything in this game or?
I really don't. It would be one of the few times I don't have anything to say, like in my entire life.
That's fine. I mean, we can move on to the next one.
Sure.
We got a shout out to Wasted Talent, Raider Nation Unlimited.
Yes.
We got the Cardinals plus 5.5 going to Vegas, where Chad's back screen is located, and the over/unders at 51.5. I kind of on first sight, I'm kind of liking the over here, but I do want to take the Raiders to cover. Shout out Raider Nation. I know there's a lot of you guys probably tuning into this throughout the week, so I'm gonna take them as my team. I'm riding with you guys, Raider Nation. I got the Raiders covering the 6 points on Sunday.
I don't feel good one way or the other about this one. Arizona's got some weapons, and Kyler Murray just, I don't know, he has this way of like making weird stuff happen that, but he also he's prone to make some mistakes, and I think. Yep. I think that was a really tough loss for the Raiders to swallow. They did a lot of stuff in this offseason to try to right the ship and get them. This was a team that people tend to forget this, but the expectation was that they were going to beat the Bengals in round one and maybe make a run at the Super Bowl last year. And the fact that they got bounced as early as they did, the way that they did, I kind of expected them to bounce back, and with all the changes that they made, bringing in Devontae Adams, extending Carr, you have all these different things that add up to this franchise being ready to take that next step. And the NFL was like, haha, but what we're going to do is we're going to have you face the Chargers week one, and so it's just like this really, this really, I don't know, the circumstances didn't work out well. Very unfortunate timing for that thing to go down the way that it did. And I think similarly, I would not be surprised if they take out all that frustration on the Cardinals. This is one of those across conference games that it's not as evenly matched as some of these interconference and especially interdivision games.
Yeah, I'm pretty bullish on the Chargers. I really like the team that they have fielded for this season. As long as they are able to stay healthy and everything, I think they are definitely in position to make a run. So I'm not really judging the Raiders too harshly off of that game because of the fact that I'm pretty bullish on the Chargers. I think they're a great team, and the fact that the Raiders were one possession away with the chance to win at the end, even after Derek Carr throwing 3 interceptions, I think it was. I think that shows that they're here to win some football games this season. If they can make those mistakes and still be within 5 of the Chargers at the end of the game,
right?
I'll take that. And the Cardinals, I mean, I don't want to judge them too harshly either because they had to match up with the Chiefs week one. It's a tough matchup to match up with week one. So it's kind of the same thing going on there. But I do think the Raiders are the better football team. I am not really too sold on Kyler Murray as a elite quarterback. He's up in that top level, but not at that elite level. You know what I mean?
He can kind of be the Dwayne Bowe of quarterbacks sometimes, where it's like it's either 8 catches for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, or it's like 1 catch for 12 yards. And Kyler Murray can be that way too, where it's like when he's good, when he's on, he's like damn near unstoppable. But when he's not, he tries to play like he still is unstoppable, and the throws aren't there, and he's just throwing the ball away and throwing the game away. Yeah,
I agree. What do you think about this one, John?
I kind of lean towards the under on it because the Raiders defense did give up quite a few yards last week. They're a type of team that I would put in that category to bounce back with a more positive defensive effort. I think Arizona's in trouble. Even without Murray, even having Murray there, I don't think they're quite right. There was a lot of really, really bad situations that, like you said, Murray forced it into, situations where the runner didn't even run the right passing route, cut into the middle of the field instead of out to the sideline. We saw that at least a handful of times, but there is a system here to bet under with home teams where the total is greater than or equal to 49.5 points after that team allowed 8 or more passing yards per attempt in their last game. And if you not familiar with that stat, anytime an NFL team allows 8 or more, usually is not a good thing. It usually results in a loss. And that's exactly what happened to the Raiders last week. So that set of combinations has hit 70% on a 50-20 under record over the last 5 seasons. So I'm definitely leaning the under here in this matchup.
I like that.
All right, yeah. I was liking the over. It looked good to me. So I'm glad you provided me with that insight, because now I'll probably either take the under or stay away. I'm already on the Raiders side. So I was just looking at the over under as like these are two offenses who have the potential to be very high power offenses, and they have the talent. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that 70%. So I'll probably stay away.
It also implies that it loses 30% of the time too. So
I mean, 100%. Yeah, definitely 100%. But I like to ride the trends, so that's why we bring you here. You provide us with that insight that we need sometimes, because sometimes we're just going off our gut feelings and assessing the game and what teams are on the field. But it's definitely good to provide that side of things. All right, so we'll go on to another game that Chad was talking about. This is the one he wanted to get to. Texans plus 10 going into Denver with the over-under set at 45.5. Go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. This is Houston, playing the way that they did, seemingly having the Colts dead to rights, and the perception is going to be that, all right, so this plus 10 is ridiculous. I got to bet the Texans. And the Broncos lost to the Seahawks on Monday night. Like, okay, so you're going to go into Mile High and you're going to play. Now you got to deal with that crowd. And Russell Wilson doesn't have to deal with Seattle's crowd in his ear all night. You saw how many false starts and how many delay of games, and they had to call timeouts. Like there were a lot of instances where the crowd got to Seattle's offense. And then on top of that, to Denver's offense. And then on top of that, like you're going back home, and the Texans are, instead of playing at home like they did last week, now they have to go on the road. So you're flipping all of those things that made things happen the way that they did. You kind of have to flip them on their head. And I ask again, if you're going to look at recency bias as your basis for choosing who you're going to pick on these games, you have to ask yourself, okay, how much do I trust what I saw in week 1 versus what I saw all preseason and what these guys have shown me throughout their careers? And does that set up to actually, bode well for this? So I like this game. And looking at what Michael Pittman did against that Houston secondary last week, I can only imagine what Jerry Jeudy's going to do against that secondary this week. So I like Jerry Jeudy to go off, and I like the Broncos to actually cover this 10 points.
What do you think, John?
I hate to say it, but I'm a risk taker, and I'm not always right here. I could have egg on my face, something awful. But one of the stronger ones from the models is on the Houston Texans. And I know it makes no sense, but listen to this little angle. You're betting on road underdogs, including Pick'em. Poor defense from last year, allowing 5.5 or more yards per play, which is horrific. And they're coming off a game allowing 450 or more total yards of offense in the previous game. Those dogs have gone 25-3 against the spread. 25-3. It sounds like a mistake.
And this number's big too. This is a big spread.
Since 1983, 6-2 against the spread the last 5 seasons, 3-1 over the last 3 seasons. What else? 12-4 for 75% over the last 10 seasons. So that's one that ranks pretty high in my database of algorithms and situational angles like this one.
So you said 25-3, right? So you're saying there's a chance.
It could be 25-4.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm. No,
yeah, it could.
That does. So you probably moved me from bet the Broncos and the -10 to, all right, I'm going to just stay away from this one because I still like the Broncos in that game to get healthy and actually kind of, again, this is that not just recency bias, but like reverse the trend kind of situation weekend to me, where you have a lot of teams who underperformed and a lot of other teams who overperformed. And I'm playing regression to the mean this week. And so that's why I like the Broncos in that one. But I think hearing what you just laid out there, I'm probably not feeling so gung-ho about it as I was before. And I'll probably just stay away from it, if anything.
Well, the thing is with the
50% pre-flop on Denver, and then you look for Houston to score first,
score early,
and then bang it.
Yeah.
And with that spread being so high, the Broncos could still win comfortably and still not cover that.
That's right.
I did agree with you though, Chad, on the other two games in this situation. The Rams, I think, are gonna beat the Falcons pretty handedly, and I think I obviously agree with the 49ers one too. But this is one that I was gonna also, before John even went with that model,
you were gonna counter.
I was gonna say that I think the Texans probably cover, but like I said about when I was talking about the Colts and the Jaguars game in the very beginning of this stream, and I was talking about the Colts and Texans. I was talking about are the Colts really looking that bad? Are they in trouble, or were the Texans going to be better than we probably expected from them? I mean, I saw some good things from the Texans in that game. Obviously, they blew that lead at the end, so I was going to side with the Texans here. I'm not going to play it, but that was where I was going to lean before it anyway. But I do think that the model holds up for you, Chad, on the other two games. And 2 for 3, that's 66%. So that's not bad either if that does hold up.
Yeah, and another note on that Seahawks 49ers game. Do we know, is Jamal Adams, what's his status? Is he going to be healthy for that game? Because he walked off on his own power Monday night, but then they carted him from the sideline to the locker room. And he didn't play like the whole rest of the first half and all of the second half, obviously. So like I just wonder how with a week to game plan against them, and with those guys coming off of a Monday night game and San Francisco having a little bit more just one day of rest is still a big deal. San Francisco had a day off on Monday. Seattle was playing Monday. And then they lost Jamal Adams. So I just wonder.
As of 1 hour ago, he has a torn quad tendon and he's out for the season.
Out for the season. There you go. See, that's big. So, it bodes poorly for Seattle for the rest of the season, obviously, because he's a Pro Bowler. But it definitely does not bode well for them this weekend against San Francisco. Because, again, San Francisco, it's a division game. We talked about this yesterday. It's a division game. Like, Seattle's 1-0, San Francisco's 0-1. You can't go down 0-2 to a 2-0 Seattle team, even with the injury. Like, you're digging yourself a hole, and you already have the Rams who, if you can, either at least keep pace with them, but maybe even if they lose again, if somehow the Falcons beat them, San Francisco wins this game, San Francisco's tied for first in the division again.
Yep.
So,
yeah. All right, guys, get your arms ready. I have a strong feeling Chad's going to bring up some LSU cats in this game.
Okay.
We got the Bengals coming in as 7-point favorites at the Cowboys, over under 41.5. John, Chad revealed on our show yesterday that he is the only one in America who is siding with the Cowboys on this one, not to cover 7 points, but to win the game outright. Cooper Rush is 1-0 as a starter. So Chad's hoping that trend continues and he goes 2-0 and he keeps his winning streak alive.
All right, if I may qualify what AD just said, because he's not wrong. I did say that, but if I'm doing anything, this kind of goes back similar to the Denver Seattle game from Monday night. I see this as there's a whole lot of people who were really high on Cincinnati for obvious reasons. Super Bowl, participant who should have won that game, but they let it get away from them. But they are the defending AFC champions. There's a lot of expectations on them, but there's also, like, we've seen a history of, like, there's a little bit of a Super Bowl loss hangover sometimes with teams. And we sort of talked about that possibly being a reason to expect, fading them in week one. I don't know that they necessarily escape that fade, for me at least, going into this week. As bad as Dallas looked, and I've said they're Jekyll and Hyde at home. They're playing at home again. Cincinnati was playing at home. Now they got to go on the road, play Dallas. Cincinnati probably looking at this like, man, if we just don't make a few of these mistakes, and if we make a PAT, we're 1-0. We just had bad luck. Yeah, whatever you want to say. And there's an expectation that without Dak Prescott, the Cowboys are just gonna walk into there and just walk right over them. I don't think it's that simple. You got a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball for Dallas, and I don't think that pride that those guys have in themselves is going to just like dissolve because their quarterback. I think if anything, they're looking at this like every win that they can get while Dak is out puts them in that much better of a position in a not so stellar division to actually have a chance to make the playoffs out of that division when everyone's counting them out. I tend to, whenever I see like the whole world saying this is it, the Cowboys are done, I'm like, like Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. I don't like the Bengals in this situation. And like we talked about yesterday, that doesn't mean that I don't think the Bengals are still possibly going to win their division and go to the playoffs. I think they can still do it starting off 0-2. But I think that there's a possibility that the Cowboys could beat them. I definitely like the Cowboys to cover that touchdown spread, and I would sprinkle a little bit on the money line. I'm not saying like go all in on the money line for Dallas, but I think you could throw a little bit of pizza money at it, as John would say, and make a decent haul with that. That's my take.
What's funny, Chad? I understand what you're saying. I understood all of those points. It makes sense. You know what I mean? You're not wrong, but you're not moving me from that. I don't know. I don't trust Cooper Rush and I got you. I don't trust that Cowboys team enough. And I think the Bengals are going to come in, with a little chip on their shoulder too after that week one. I mean, especially Joe Burrow, he knows he has to play better than that. So I think he's going to, come in with a lot of focus and you mentioned yesterday, I'm not sure. I don't think you mentioned it just now, but yesterday you mentioned how the Bengals could be riding in saying, oh, this is an easy one. They got Dak out. They just couldn't even put up a touchdown week one. Only team in the league that didn't put up a touchdown week one. But I don't think so, man. I think they're going to come in. I mean, you can't come in like that if you're 0-1 also. You can't, especially when you lost to, Mitch Trubisky, who everybody's like, oh, why is he even starting? I don't think they're just waiting for Kenny Pickett.
But don't misunderstand. I don't think this is them coming in like our shit doesn't stink attitude. I think this is more of like, all right, good. We're gonna get that win this week. Like it's not that same. Like if they were playing a really, really tough opponent this week, I would think that they would have no chance of letting down, and you'd see the best that the Bengals have to offer coming up this week. I just don't know that. It's not to say that they're gonna walk in like they rule the world. Obviously, they're 0-1. I just think that they're expecting to maybe get a little relief this week. That's more of what I was thinking. Is they look at this as like, oh, all right, cool. We got an easy one, and then we can look at maybe even looking ahead. I don't even know who they play next, but kind of like, all right, let's get through this one, and then we got whoever on the schedule next. I can look it up, but that was my thinking. John, what you got?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I check is we talked about the Circa earlier, and when the Circa puts out the lines and totals for every single game for all 17 weeks, they do that generally like the first week in August, I guess, is when they pop out. You have a benchmark, and in this game, this is pretty remarkable because it usually doesn't move this much until like the last quarter of the season, where you see a total that opened at 50.5, like this one did, now trading at 41.5. So it's 100% contrarian, and it worked real well with the sides in the Circa contest for me last year. And you want to fade that long-term trend as the market begins to overprice things. In this case, it's undervaluing the total. So at I don't know what you guys are seeing it at 41.5. I mean, with Chad's analysis of the Dallas Cowboys, taking care of business and and showing people they're very much alive despite not having Prescott, you got to like the over, because if Dallas pulls it off, I could easily see them scoring 27 to 35 points on their own merit. And then the over is almost a shoo-in then at that point.
Yeah.
So you made me like the over even more than I did.
I think it has to go that way if Chad's correct. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's no way the under hits and a Cowboys win, in my opinion. So I would agree.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Shout out to Jimmy Das Hotep. I appreciate you, bro. And we'll get to the Sunday night game now. The Bears coming in at +10 at the Packers, over under 41.5. Chad, is this another one?
I'm avoiding this game. I don't want anything. Like I don't know what to expect from. I don't know. Is Aaron Rodgers gonna take another week off, or is he gonna actually come to play? Like I don't know, man. Like the Bears, is what they did against the 49ers like a mirage, or is it real? This is one. I'm again kind of looking at some of these games and just saying, you know what? I need more data. I'm not pushing the button on anything until I get more data on these teams. And I'm perfectly okay with admitting that and saying that I'm just like, I'm going to sit this particular game out. So,
well, yeah, I agree with you because, the Packers looked very bad offensively, and what are we going to expect from Aaron Rodgers? We know that he can turn it up late in the season when he needs to, and he doesn't really care about the first 4 weeks of the season usually. He's like the opposite of Patrick Mahomes. Like Patty Mahomes in September is unstoppable. Aaron Rodgers is just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just here to play today so I don't get fined and, catch me in the playoffs. But you can't really judge the Bears at all either after that game. They won as a 7-point underdog against San Fran, who we expected to be a solid team this year. But like I can't judge San Fran for losing it. I can't judge Chicago for winning it. The way that game was, the circumstances of the game, and I hate doing that.
Is a little bit of an X factor.
An excuse. Yeah, I feel like I'm making an excuse, but like I just can't. I can't judge it. I don't know how to call the Bears after that game, a game like that. So I'm with you on this. I'm staying completely away. I don't even think I'm going to throw any player props down or anything for this one because I don't know what to expect from either side. You got anything, John?
I have nothing to add. I'm the same camp. It's the game I really don't like on the entire card.
Yeah, this is
like 10 points is insane.
Yeah.
That's what I think there's a lot of this stuff. I feel like a lot of these are like baiting people. Like there's so many of these touchdown plus spreads this week. Like last week, you had a lot of like 2, 3, 4, 5 point spreads. This week, it's like a couple of pick'em games and then a bunch of 7 to 10 point spread games, and not much in between. And that to me says like, oh yeah, okay. So I see this play. Y'all want us to take all these favorites with these low spreads, and y'all want us to take all these dogs on these big spreads. And I don't know which ones are which, but I'm either staying away or I'm swinging at the ones that I think, make the most sense, that I can actually tell a story that makes sense to me. If I can't tell a story that makes sense to me, I just stay away from it.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way on that one.
John has an algorithmic storyteller that he can like tap into that gives him all kinds of like really cool stories that I can't like tap into. So like I just got to go with a lot of gut feel on some of this stuff.
And even with him having that, he has nothing for this game. So that's how you know we're on the right track with that one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so now the storyteller talks a lot of crap too, and you have to sort through it to get the real nuggets.
It's like
that's true.
It's sometimes it spits out stuff that looks like the instructions that were translated from Chinese to English, and it's like, whoa, y'all don't understand where these words are supposed to go because this is not how you say what you're trying to say. Oh man!
Shout out to Nick DeMondi. He said Aaron did too much.
Yeah, I saw that. Nick's
shout
crazy.
Out Men of Order.
Yeah, shout out Nick and Jimmy and Raider Bandit. We saw you in there. Yeah, so like I put Wasted's going to be here. We're going to try to get the whole squad back together. So we were doing a show all last year. Me, AG, Wasted, and Ant. And John came on a few times with that. Our homie Aunt Bailey and Wasted were on there with me and AG. And then like we just kind of like everybody got busy and we started doing different things, and we didn't want to like stop doing stuff on this channel. So Wasted has been kind of simulcasting Raider Nation Unlimited here while he's doing it on his own channel as well. And he's done some other special stuff for here. And then we're going to keep doing this now that football season's here. We got college football stuff. We got NFL stuff. And we're going to keep it going all the way through into the NBA and all that, and college basketball as well. So
the band will be back together soon enough.
We will be back soon enough. Yeah, we appreciate all of Raider Nation for coming out here. And we appreciate 100%. Wasted for sending you guys to us, because I know he's got a big following there, and he's doing right by you guys, bringing you guys some fire Raiders content. But when we're doing this, we're going to go with a little more stuff besides just the Raiders. So we hope you guys enjoy that as well. I figure if you're NFL fans, you got to love these takes, because you got a bunch of different angles of how to look at these games, so that if you're the wagering type, you've got some good info to work on. So
yep, and I'm going with the Raiders to cover just for you guys.
Yeah, but just remember, none of this is financial advice, and bet at your own risk. None of this stuff is guaranteed or anything like that. So, as John always says, with your head, but not over it. That's how you should bet. Don't get yourself in over your head, and may all the bets be in your favor, right?
All right, so now we got the Monday night slate. So we got two staggered games, one starting at 7:30, the other starting at 8:30. We got the Thursday night game that you can only watch on Amazon Prime. Is the NFL trying to make it harder for us to watch football? What's going on here? We're going to have to flip back and forth through channels on Monday night. We were just talking about this yesterday, Chad. Week 1, Monday night, there's 2 games, doubleheader, one at 7:30, one at 10:30, whatever the times are. They're not staggered, though. You can watch both games in its entirety.
And now this year they went with 1 Monday night game and then 2 Monday night games week 2 or week 3. Week 2.
Week 2.
Right? No, week 2. I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, week 2 we're gonna have 2 Monday night games, and they're like damn near the same time.
I don't get it, but I don't know. But let's get into this one. Titans plus 10 at the Bills, over under 48.5. Chad, is this another one?
I mean, it feels like one, doesn't it? But
it does.
This doesn't match. This doesn't match any of that other stuff. So like the Titans, as 10-point dogs, but they're going on the road to face the Bills. I actually still kind of like this number for the Bills. But am I being suckered? Because like that's what I'm saying. Like there's so many of these big spreads. It's like, wait a second, like. This one seems like the surest thing of all of these, if you're following conventional wisdom, right? I bet you this is the one. This is one of the sprinkling of dogs that actually covers. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Titans find a way to ugly this game up and keep it closer than 10 points.
John, do your models agree?
Good.
What's that?
Do your models agree?
Well, I was just pulling up a little piece of information here. If you identify the winner of the game on Monday Night Football, you're basically 251, 54, and 12 pushes to the spread for 82%. So if you think for a second that Tennessee actually has a chance to win the game, I don't see it coming. And I just see Buffalo. I mean, Buffalo showed from start to finish a level of play that we haven't seen from that franchise for a long time, if ever, and it's sustainable. I don't see any regression from them at all. And if anything, what if they play better? It's Monday night.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. My question is, like, if I'm the odds makers, why am I giving the 0-1 Rams 10.5 to overcome against Atlanta at home after the way they looked last week, and I'm only giving 10 points to the Bill, or I'm only giving 10 points to the Titans going up against the Bills? Like, it just seems backwards to me. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, some of this stuff the math doesn't add up. I don't get it. I don't, and that's what kind of makes me wary of this stuff. Is I'm looking at this stuff and I'm like, wait, one of these is a setup. one of these is a trap, and so I don't know if I should avoid them both or if I definitely agree with you. I would not bet the money line for the Titans because I don't see a path to them winning this game. I just could see it being, an 8-point game, 7-point game.
Well, it's true. You always have the back door as well.
If they ugly it up enough and it's 21-10 and then they get a late touchdown and can't get the onside kick or something like that, I could see it happening.
How do you guys feel about the over here?
I have nothing on that because I think if Buffalo, let's say, blow them out 31-7, obviously it goes under.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But if Tennessee's going to pull off the upset, then you got to be probably thinking the over, 28, 27, 27, 24.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I got nothing either. I was just curious if you guys had it, if you guys were thinking about it. I wasn't going to play that either, but.
Mm-hmm.
The Rams,
that's my take too.
Super Bowl champs and having lost week 1, I don't have it in front of me, but they're in a super positive situation to win and cover in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the numbers on, but it's right around 75%. The reigning Super Bowl champ loses in week 1 and then bounces back with a Super Bowl effort.
Right.
Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. But against Atlanta, I don't know. Is Atlanta really that good?
Right. Well, that's the thing. I look at it like the difference in difficulty of opponent from week 1 to week 2 is like a huge drop off. Like Buffalo, like the odds-on Super Bowl favorite, to like a team no one expects to even make the playoffs.
Well, that's got to make you think, like how John said, like what if the Bills come out and play even better than they did last Thursday? Well, I was gonna jump in and say, well, they're definitely playing a lesser value opponent, so it's plausible. You know what I mean? They might come out and hit the over on their own if in a perfect world if we're betting it. But the last game on the slate,
first half, Buffalo might be a good look.
That's true too.
That's a good point. That might be the way to go, and that way you're free of the backdoor cover. Yeah.
Yep. All right, last game of the slate: Vikings +2 going into Philly. The over/under's at 50.5. We talked about this game yesterday, also on the channel if you watched that episode. But I had the Eagles. They were at 2.5 yesterday when we did the show, and I had the Eagles covering 2.5. It's at 2 now, so I'm obviously going to still stick with that. Mm-hmm. That makes it a little better for me. Chad didn't necessarily disagree with that, but we were curious if your models or your analysis shows that we're on the right track with that one, John.
Oh, I have no doubt Eagles are the right side here, in my opinion, and I do like the under. A little bit of pullback from last week's 38-35 win by the Eagles. They're 18-4 to the under after scoring and allowing 30 points or more in games played since 1992, and that track record applies to every single franchise in the NFL. It just happens that the Eagles have one of the highest win percentages in that situation. So what else can I tell you here? 45-19 under are the Eagles after playing a game where 60 or more total points were scored in the last 30 seasons. And that one's pretty good too.
They scored 73 or something? They scored 73 combined last week, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't it 38-35? Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that's good.
I do like the Eagles. I like that ground game. I like how Hurts played. And you know what? Philly media is all worried that he's going to take too many risks. Well, I didn't really see too many risks. I mean, he did get hit in the head, and they didn't call it after he had slid. But he just looks like, he's another player like Saquon Barkley. He's in a totally another gear than anytime we've seen him before. Everything is fast, decisive. That pass he threw to J.B. Brown, the long ball, and remember me ranting and raving about the Philly media saying that, he can't throw the long ball. Well, what the heck do you call that pass? I mean, any softer or more accurate.
Yeah, he could. That would have gone in a 15-inch diameter trash can at that distance. The way he threw that, it just dropped right in over the defender.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, one of the biggest reasons that I'm on the Eagles side. One of my thoughts on why is the Vikings pass rush really disrupted Aaron Rodgers, and it made them probably look a little worse than they would have without that. I don't think they would have won either way, but they got to him. I think it was 4 sacks and another 6 knockdowns, a couple of hurries. Other than that, they were getting to him all day, disrupting it. He couldn't really sit back there comfortably. What makes me feel good about the Eagles here is that Jalen Hurts can get away from that. You know what I mean? If they're applying that same pressure, he can move out. He got sacked once, and granted, it's different. You know, it's Vikings defense compared to Lions defense. I'm not making that comparison there. I just know that Jalen Hurts has the wheels and the ability to get away from that and still look downfield or just take off. I mean, he ran for 90 yards. He didn't throw for any touchdowns, but they had 4 different guys that ran for touchdowns. And although the Vikings looked really good, you know, they won 23-7. They were in control the entire time of that game. Justin Jefferson is a stud, obviously, but I mean, their offense wasn't super impressive, and I know the Eagles can put up some points. So I'm looking at the Eagles to win this game.
Look, I'm just going to say it. All right. We have already name dropped. Y'all get ready to do 10 push-ups. We've already name dropped like 7 LSU players today. I'm just saying, you know, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamal Adams. Like, do we keep going? There's more, but do we need to keep saying more? You know, and I don't do like
push-ups for each player that is on the LSU roster.
No. Just
like
one.
It'd be a good idea.
It's just one reference, and that was one where I didn't have to be like coaxed to say it, where y'all are like begging me to say it. That time I just volunteered it. So that one you definitely have to drop and give us 10. So y'all get down, do your 10 push-ups.
Yeah, I just got a notification. Somebody on FanDuel just took in a $335,000 bet on the Chargers to cover tonight, 4.5.
Wow,
that's
a lot.
That's
risky. A lot of money.
I don't know about that.
4.5.
I would have took that at the over if I was throwing that kind of money, not the 4.5 side. That's,
you know, what's interesting about those, they took the whole thing. Like, only Heritage and Pinnacle are known to take those kind of size bets without, you know, forcing. Yeah, they'll take 25,000 at 4.5, but then the next 150,000 will be at 4.
You got to buy the bids. Got to buy the bids all the way down. Yeah. So they don't have to. I guess they had the liquidity to be able to sell them all at 4.5. That's insane.
A good week one.
Well, they are a publicly held company, so
yeah. That's one of the things we always talk to people about with this stuff. It doesn't always work out that way with betting, but like when you're buying stocks and trying to sell stuff, it's like, you know, you can say that, you know, your little crypto, you know, nothing coin is worth whatever you think it's worth, but good luck trying to unload those million shares of it you have at, you know, 0.13 of a cent. Because as you try to find the bids all the way down, you're going to end up, you know, at like 0.13 of a cent before you actually liquidate all that stuff. Liquidity is a thing. Like, you've got to have bids. You got to have the bids or it ain't going through. So anyway.
All right, so let's get 3 official picks so we track a score here. I'm going with Steelers money line, the over tonight. So that is over. Oh wait, no, that is not the game. Over 53.5. I'm taking the Steelers money line, and I'm taking the Raiders to cover the 5.5 spread. Those are my 3 official picks. What you got, John?
I'm going to go over in the Dallas game, 41.5, I think it is, and then pizza money bet, teaming up with my good pal Chad. I'm going to go Dallas money line and the over.
Woo! I wasn't expecting that one. Dallas I thought Chad was the only one in America. You ruined it. Now it's 2 of you.
Well, I only count a half because it's a parlay.
There you go. There you go. What's your third? What's the third, John? You got one more?
Oh, the 3. Well, that would be under in the Eagles game.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You were feeling strong about that one. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I kind of like that under. It wasn't one of my picks officially, but I'm kind of liking that Eagles play there. But I'm going to just go with my top 3. I'm going to leave that Broncos Houston game off the list because I had 4, but so that one's going to stay off. but I'm going Giants -2 against Carolina, Rams -10.5 against Atlanta, and the 49ers -9.5 against Seattle. All three home teams, all three home favorites who I actually think that the number is a trap for people who are going to be suckered into betting the dog in that game. Because I think in all three of those instances, well, not necessarily in the Giants instance, but in the two big favorite games, you have two favorites that are going back home and they're playing teams in their conference. In San Francisco's case, it's a team in their own division after they lost on the road in what I think a lot of people would admit is probably an embarrassing fashion,
Yeah.
So I love something like that to reverse hard because they get, and when I say get healthy, what I mean by that is they want to get their record and their standing in the league back healthy again. And so the way you do that is you come out and you put your foot on the throat of the opponent and you don't let up until they're dead. And that's it. So 10 points.
I agree.
Yeah, give me that all day. So those are my three.
Solid. All right, sounds good. So we'll update how we did next week when we get together.
I'll be 0-3, I'm sure. So it's all good. Yeah.
Me and Chad are going to be on John Ryan's channel Saturday morning to talk some college football and I guess some more NFL as well, right?
Yep. 8 a.m.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
So we'll be there.
Me too.
Definitely go follow John Ryan. His Twitter's in the description box, and you can find all of his YouTube and his shows and all his picks on there. He's dropping a lot of free knowledge on Twitter, especially live during the games. I made some money off of a few of those tweets you put out where you said, hey, this would be a good time to take a side live. I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I trust you. And you had a hot weekend to start the season, so I owe you a couple Irish amnesias next time you come over to the restaurant.
There you go.
Yep. All right, we'll be back next week. Check in on John Ryan's channel Saturday morning. Me and Chad will be there. Peace.
Yeah, for sure. Peace, y'all.